Researchers around the world have become famous for finding incredible and sometimes frightening things. But sometimes they manage to stumble upon discoveries that were not supposed to be found by humans at all. These are stories about eerie entities, hidden passages, and ancient secrets, so disturbing that perhaps it would have been better if they had remained buried forever in the darkness. In Oman, one Arab ghost hunter, together with his team, entered an ancient cave that, according to rumors, was inhabited by jinn. Immediately after entering, he began performing a ritual to summon spirits. A narrow black box was placed on the ground, and he began pouring sand over it. After a few moments, the box began to move on its own. Then a reddish figure appeared from beneath it, trying to grab the object. According to the researcher, the box was created to catch a jinn. When it suddenly slammed shut, he stated that the ritual had worked and the entity was sealed inside. In the village of Rampur in India, residents began noticing strange growling sounds coming every night after midnight. No one could understand where they were coming from. One day, two men decided to track down the source of the noise. The sound led them to a wasteland where they saw something terrifying. Before them stood a demonic entity disguised as a human. Its eyes were glowing, and its mouth was wide open, producing continuous growling. The men began reading sacred texts, believing that before them was a pra, a hungry ghost doomed to wander forever in search of food. When the prayers did not work, they decided to seek help from a local Hindu priest. A YouTuber with the nickname Urbex Hills, known for his creepy expeditions, once visited an abandoned church. While filming the empty halls, the camera captured a strange movement. A wooden board shifted right in front of him. He did not notice it immediately and continued exploring, going down into the basement. It was there that his camera captured something truly frightening. In the depths of the room stood a dark, humanoid figure, so black that it had no distinguishable features. The researcher noticed it only later while reviewing the footage. The realization that he had not been there alone made him feel real horror. In a remote area of Mexico, there was an abandoned village, made famous by one place, the so-called Witch's Room. Local residents avoided it and tried not to go near it. However, one day, a group of researchers still decided to go inside. In the room, they found candles arranged in a strange order around a sinister doll, which clearly indicated rituals had been performed. When they looked up, a frightening face with sharp features and gray hair appeared in the window. The creature disappeared almost immediately, but the camera managed to capture what everyone was so afraid of. On the 19th of February, 2023, YouTube blogger Lewis Clark published a video filmed in an abandoned hospital. He and his team explored the flooded basement of the building, not expecting anything truly dangerous. At some point, a person suddenly appeared from an emergency exit. He was wearing a blood-stained apron, similar to a butcher's, and his face was hidden behind a white mask. The scariest part was that he had a weapon in his hands. Panic seized the group instantly. They rushed to run through the dark corridors, hearing the footsteps of the pursuer behind them. Despite the almost hopeless situation, they managed to get out of the building and survive, which they later called a real miracle. In April 2019, a paranormal researcher named Danny posted a video that is still considered one of the most frightening. He decided to explore an abandoned chapel alone. While inspecting the rooms, he suddenly noticed a face in the window. It was pale and resembled the image of a ghostly nun. The researcher immediately ran outside, but when he turned around, his camera captured an even more disturbing detail. On the roof of the building stood a pale figure, motionless, watching him. However, the most chilling fact was that the very same nun continued to look at him from the window. After that, he completely stopped the investigation, not daring to go back inside. One night, a researcher named Ahmed Al-Khatib went to an abandoned hospital on the outskirts of Riyadh. The building was completely submerged in darkness and silence. Lighting the rooms with his camera, he noticed a figure sitting on a bed. The creature's face was hidden by long black hair. For a few seconds, it remained motionless, as if not noticing a human presence. Then the head slowly tilted, as though the creature realized it was being watched. When the face became fully visible, Ahmed experienced real shock. What he saw was so frightening that he immediately left the building, not wanting to stay there for a single second longer. In Lincoln, a tourist visited the famous Lincoln Cathedral, long included on the list of places he had dreamed of seeing. While filming inside the building, the camera captured a strange detail. A pale face was peeking out from behind a stone wall, as if watching him. It stood out with its ghostly whiteness in the cathedral's dim light. The tourist cautiously approached, deciding it might be a reflection or a play of light. But before he could get closer, the face disappeared, as if dissolving into the air. This finally convinced him that he had encountered something inexplicable. Deep underground, in an old abandoned mine in the United Kingdom, a group of researchers made a discovery that literally left them speechless. This mine had been closed for more than 100 years and for decades was considered completely abandoned. Moving deeper through narrow tunnels, the researchers unexpectedly ran into a huge brick wall. It rose so high that the beams of their flashlights could barely reach its upper part. In the center of the wall, there was a small opening, but it was too narrow for a person to crawl through. In the researchers' opinion, the real mine continued further, behind this barrier. But why it was sealed in this way, and what exactly was hidden behind the massive masonry, remained unanswered. Particular concern was caused by the fact that none of them could make out the upper boundary of the wall, as if it disappeared into endless darkness. In 1932, during underwater tests, an experimental British submarine disappeared without a trace. It was a unique vessel designed to transport and launch a small airplane directly from underwater. The test ended tragically. The submarine vanished, and the fate of its crew remained unknown. Decades later, the owner of the YouTube channel Llama Lair went to explore its remains on the seabed. However, what he saw turned out to be far more disturbing than expected. Near the hull of the submarine was something resembling the remains of a huge creature. Its massive jaws were wide open, and the lower part of its body was entangled in thick seaweed. After that, the researcher seriously wondered whether this creature could have been connected to the mysterious disappearance of the submarine and its crew, whose bodies were never found. On a deserted patch of land in Mexico, a group of archaeologists was conducting routine work to collect soil samples. But what they discovered beneath the surface turned out to be far more mastabna than simple geological layers. A whole structure was hidden underground. It was not a cave and not a natural depression. Before the researchers opened a complex, carefully thought-out construction, clearly created by human hands. By preliminary estimates, the structure was several thousand years old. Scientists suggested that an unknown civilization intentionally hid this city under an artificial layer of earth supported by a system of columns. The deeper the archaeologists moved inside, the more complex and branching the layout became. At some point, they discovered a staircase leading even lower. After that, official information about the excavation suddenly stopped. However, questions and guesses immediately began appearing online, because the find looked too unusual to simply disappear from public view. Caves have long been considered places where the most mysterious secrets are hidden. But what this researcher encountered went far beyond what is familiar. Deep inside the Sun Dung Cave in Vietnam, a diver noticed a narrow passage and decided to check what was behind it. When the beam of his flashlight lit the space on the other side, he saw an eye staring directly at him. That Vzglad belonged to a pale face of gigantic size. Especially disturbing was the fact that the passage was wide enough for a person to crawl through, yet the creature was visible only partially. The researcher could not understand whether it was a stuck wild animal or something far more dangerous. He preferred not to linger, not wanting to find out what exactly was hiding in the depths of the cave. This is one of the loudest finds of recent times. A mysterious video appeared online, published by an anonymous source. The filming location and the exact details were not revealed for unknown reasons. The footage shows archaeologists exploring the depths of an ancient cave, inside which an entire underground infrastructure is discovered. But the most shocking moment comes later. Among the finds are the remains of strange creatures unlike humans or any known animals. In one of the bodies, the researchers found an implanted metal chip. This led the team to conclude that these creatures could have possessed technologies far surpassing the level of human development, and for a long time could have hidden from the outside world. Perhaps this is the luckiest researcher in the entire history of such finds. One diver claimed that he managed to discover the legendary El Dorado, the city of gold. In the published video, he showed mountains of gold bars and giant statues made entirely of pure gold. However, after uploading the clip, he never contacted anyone again and did not reveal either the location of the find or any additional details. This Porradillo many guesses. Either he decided to keep the discovery secret, or the video turned out to be only a fragment of a more complex and carefully planned mystificatia. Nothing could have prepared this man from Indonesia for what happened to him that night. Returning home, he heard crying coming from an abandoned house. The sound was so jalobnim and desperate that he decided someone inside urgently needed help. Entering the house, he saw the figure of a girl sitting alone. She was turned with her back to him, and long hair completely hid her face. The man called to her several times, but in response, silence. After a few seconds, the figure began to slowly rise and turn toward him. At that moment, he realized that before him was not a human at all. The creature's face was distorted beyond recognition, devoid of human features, and looked frighteningly alien. The realization came instantly. The crying had been a trap, and the image of the girl was only bait. The man panicked and ran out of the house without looking back, understanding that a few more seconds inside could have cost him his life. When a popular YouTube group went to explore an abandoned hotel on Hachijo Island in Japan, it was supposed to be a normal adventure. The hotel had long stood empty and was considered one of the darkest places in the region. Almost immediately after entering, dull thuds began to sound inside, as if someone was moving through the building. The deeper the group went, the more unsettling the atmosphere became. In one of the halls, they found a strange construction, an accurately-stacked tower of wooden blocks. The patterns were too complex and carefully planned to look accidental. It felt as if someone intentionally left this object as a warning or a trap. Moments later, the equipment began behaving strangely. The flashlight turned off on its own and then turned on again. Later, one of the doors suddenly slammed shut by itself, as if an invisible force would not let them go further. That was when fear became stronger than curiosity. Realizing they were not alone there, the participants panicked and left the hotel. In one episode of the show Ghost Adventures, a team of researchers went to a high school in the city of Kingman, Arizona. This building was built directly on the site of an old cemetery, and for many years students and teachers complained about strange phenomena. During the night investigation, 2 participants went into the school cafeteria. It was there they heard a quiet voice that sounded clearly in the empty room, like a warning. To record what was happening, the team set up a directional microphone. Despite the fact that no one else was inside, the equipment began picking up strange sounds and noises whose origin could not be explained. After the investigation ended, it became clear what is hidden beneath the school building is clearly not at rest. In April 2020, a group of paranormal researchers broke into an abandoned house where a woman had disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Almost immediately after entering, they encountered something frightening. From a doorway crawled a pale figure with dark, tangled hair. Its limbs were bent at unnatural angles, and its movements resembled the movements of a creature Lishanowo human anatomy. The team fled the house in Ujis. However, a few months later, another researcher decided to enter again and managed to go further. In one of the rooms, he found a doll lying on a sofa. When he picked it up, a woman suddenly appeared in front of him. She looked lifeless. Her face was empty, and where her eyes should have been, there was only skin. The fright was so silnum that he immediately ran out of the house without trying to viasnit what exactly he had seen. Few could have imagined that an ordinary old fast food restaurant building in Arizona would become part of a major investigation. It all began with a traffic stop, with a man named Ivan Lopez behind the wheel. Police dogs found containers with zaprashonomy substances worth more than $1 million. This led investigators to search his home and the abandoned KFC restaurant building in San Luis. Inside the kitchen, an entrance to a tunnel was found. The underground passage stretched 600 feet under the border and ended under a bed in a house on the territory of Mexico. At that moment, it became clear that the authorities had stumbled upon one of the largest illegal routes in the history of the region. In Brazil, YouTube blogger Luan Mendes, together with his team, decided to explore an abandoned building of a former hospital. Local residents claimed that it was inhabited by the ghost of a nurse who died there many years ago. During the inspection of the rooms, the beam of a flashlight suddenly illuminated a female figure in white. Her body was bent at strange angles, and her movements seemed unnatural. The frightened team immediately left the building. To this day, the question remains, did they really encounter the very ghost people had rumored about? In 2017, a video appeared on Lewis Clark's channel that is still considered one of the most disturbing. Lewis and his friends went to explore an old, abandoned psychiatric hospital. It was more of a spontaneous adventure than a serious expedition, and none of them expected real danger. At first, everything looked calm. Empty corridors, peeling walls, silence broken only by the echo of footsteps. But suddenly, there was a sharp sound of breaking glass. The group instantly became alert and turned toward a dark corridor. It was at that moment that the situation went out of control. The camera could not clearly capture what was happening, but what they saw made them panic and run. Later, Lewis admitted that it was an armed man who began chasing them. He dropped the camera almost immediately, and there was only one goal: to get out alive. They were lucky to leave the building before the pursuer could reach them. In Liverpool, a group of teenagers after college decided to explore an abandoned theater. It was supposed to be a normal adventure for the sake of interesting footage and thrills. However, after only 10 minutes inside, they noticed a strange figure in the hall. The creature had grayish skin and long black hair and was slowly approaching them. Then it stopped and stared pramo at them. At that moment, the most terrifying thing became clear. The creature had no face, no eyes, no mouth, no nose, an absolutely empty, smooth surface. Fear instantly turned into panic. The teenagers immediately left the building and never again tried to do such explorations. A ship that sank almost 140 years ago in Lake Michigan has finally been found. We are talking about the vessel F.J. King, a wooden ship 144 feet long, which sank in 1886 while carrying iron ore near the Dore Peninsula. For many years it was called a ghost ship because no expedition could locate it. However, this year, a research group managed to find the vessel with sonar, guided by an old report from a lighthouse keeper. The ship's hull turned out to be surprisingly well preserved underwater. Its discovery became one of the most astonishing finds of recent times. One of the darkest underwater missions ever recorded on camera was connected to the exploration of the wreck of the ferry Thomas. The vessel sank in 2013 after colliding with a cargo ship near Cebu. Divers descended to the crash site to find missing people. They had to make their way through narrow corridors and twisted metal. However, most of all, they were struck by a strange black substance scattered throughout the hull. It did not resemble metal or silt. The mass was thick, sticky, and literally clung to the walls of the ship. The researchers collected samples and documented every detail before finishing their mission. A traveler named Ethan loved documenting his trips. One night, while driving through the state of Michigan, his motorcycle suddenly broke down. Looking for shelter, he noticed an old polu-razrusheny house. He did not dare to get closer, and, as it turned out, rightly so. In one of the windows, he saw a huge dark figure without any distinguishable features. The creature disappeared for a moment, and then appeared again, turning directly toward him. It was then that Ethan understood that trying to go inside could end in tragedy. He immediately turned around and walked away without looking back. In New York, a man moved into a new house that seemed too cheap for its condition. After some time, he began hearing strange voices coming from the attic. At first, he thought it was rodents. But when he finally went up to check, a pale face with dark eyes appeared, staring directly at him. The fright was so strong that he ran out of the house and that very night decided to move out as soon as possible. He had no doubt. Staying there was dangerous. In Oman, a researcher named Khaled al-Buwani was known for visiting places that locals considered dwellings of jinn and dark spirits. One day, rumors reached him about a sinister entity allegedly hiding in a cave near the city of Nizwa. Deciding to check these stories, he went there with a camera. Deep inside the cave, he noticed a figure wrapped in black fabric. The creature sat motionless, gripping a long object in its hands, resembling a staff. When Khaled tried to speak to it, it became clear that before him was a human under the influence of a jinn. Despite all attempts, the spirit refused to leave the body, and the researcher understood that vmешательство could be dangerous. In Mexico, a worker came to an old abandoned building to begin its reconstruction. Already on the first day, he noticed something strange. On the razrusheny staircase sat a human figure with its face covered by its hands, quietly crying. The most frightening part was that a second earlier, there had been no one in that place. The worker called out to the figure, but it did not react. The presence felt wrong, as if before him was something that was only imitating a human. Not wanting to find out whether it was a homeless person or something much darker, he left the building and never returned. In one video, a paranormal researcher named Shane Pittman decided to clearly show why attempts to communicate with spirits can end badly. He was in an abandoned house where cameras had been set up. Sitting with a blindfold over his eyes, he began trying to establish contact. At first, footsteps were heard in the distance, slow and distinct. With each second, the tension grew. Then, something unexpected happened. Shane Resco jerked back, seized by panic. It seemed to him that something invisible touched him. He immediately tore the blindfold off his eyes, but there was no one in the room. The cameras also did not record anyone's presence. Nevertheless, the researcher was sure that the contact had действительно happened. All these finds are united by one thing. They make us doubt how well we know our world. Under the ground, under the water, and in abandoned places around the world, there are still secrets that defy logic and do not fit into the familiar picture of reality. Perhaps some of them were hidden not by chance. And the main question remains open. Are we ready to learn the truth? Or are there things that are truly better left in the dark? Do not forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. See you in the next video.